the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
I call Ian Lees-Galloway.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this bill has all the hallmarks of another Woodhouse shambles. We had the health and safety shambles. It's going to be worm farms all over again. There's a minister with the record for the most shambolic legislation. We had the worm farms fiasco. We've got a zero-hour contracts law that doesn't get rid of zero-hour contracts like he said it would. It actually enshrines zero-hour contracts in the law. And now we've got this ridiculous patchwork approach that we're going to get, where if you live in one town, you might have to work on Easter Sunday, but if you live in another town 10 kilometres down the road, you might not have to work on Easter Sunday. It is ridiculous. And I have to ask, why is the minister sending this legislation to the Commerce Committee when it is quite clearly an industrial relations matter? The people who are going to be affected by this legislation are working people. That's where this legislation belongs. So the thinking behind this is completely muddled, completely shambolic, exactly what we would expect from Michael Woodhouse. Mr. Speaker, there are three main reasons to vote against this legislation, and that is certainly what I intend to do tonight. First of all, this is not local government's responsibility. This is an industrial relations matter. This relates to workers' rights. This relates to employment agreements. That is not the purview of local government. At a time where this government keeps piling on the pressure to local councils to cut costs, to keep rates under control, they are simply giving councils one more job to do. My local council has just agreed to spend another $100,000 a year employing extra staff to deal with all the extra bylaws and regulations they have to process because of that government. And this is just one more thing that's going to add cost to councils, cost to ratepayers, and it's not their responsibility. The government, the national government, needs to take responsibility for this. If the National Party wants to get rid of Easter Sunday as a day that families can have together, they should do it themselves. It's their responsibility, not local government's responsibility. They're kicking the can down the road, and the buck stops over there. They don't understand that, though. They don't want to take responsibility. They want to push the responsibility off onto local government. The second reason to vote against this is the fact that we are going to have a mishmash of rules and regulations across the country. As I said, you could work in Palmerston North and be compelled to work on Easter Sunday. You could work in Fielding 15 minutes up the road and you might not be compelled to work on Easter Sunday. And there's going to be a patchwork across the country of irregular laws, irregular regulation. It's going to be a dire mess. And thirdly, sir, it is the fact that some workers are going to lose one of the few days we have left in our calendar where people can actually expect, oh, says Maggie Barry, oh, she's not interested in families, she's not interested in people actually spending time in their community, spending time with their families. Easter Sunday is one of the few days we've got left where people can believe that they're going to have a day off and spend some time with their family. And as the minister pointed out, it's not a public holiday, so they're not going to get any extra compensation for it. So people are going to be expected to work on a day that has been a sacrosanct day for families, and they're not going to get any additional compensation. The minister says, they can refuse to work if they want to. What planet is he on? The man is in la-la land. He needs to actually go and spend some time with some minimum wage workers, people who are actually at the beck and call of their employer, and see what it really means to refuse work. Oh sure, you can challenge, if the boss is actually silly enough to say that I'm reducing your hours or I'm dismissing you because you turned down work on Easter Sunday, sure, they can challenge that. But there'll be myriad ways in which people can have their hours manipulated if they refuse to work on Easter Sunday, if that's what their employer demands. They have no idea on that side of the house what it is like to be someone with insecure work, someone who is on a 0 hours contract, someone who's stuck on casual work, someone who's stuck in fixed-term contracts or seasonal work. They've got absolutely no idea what that is like. They've got no idea what it means to struggle to put food on the table. And that's why they are prepared to support this legislation. Actually, sir, I think there'd be a lot of members on that side of the House, if they weren't whipped into this, who wouldn't support this legislation. There's a few members who consistently vote against Easter trading. Sam Lotoinga is one. I want to know why he's agreed to be whipped into supporting this legislation. Tim McIndoe is another one. Why has he agreed to be whipped into this? Chester Burrows. Chester Burrows is a man who's been absolutely
The member will not draw the Deputy Speaker into this debate.
He's been consistent though, sir, I'll give him that. Anyway, sir, there are a number of members on that side of the House who have been dragged into this because the government knows that if they gave the national members a free vote, they wouldn't have a hope of getting this legislation through. Sir, when we talk about employment relations, when we talk about workers' rights, what we're actually talking about is people's ability to live a full life, to spend time with their family, to be able to do things like join a sports team, which you can't do if you can't guarantee that you're going to be at practice or you're going to show up for every game. You can't be a volunteer in the community because you can't tell them, yes, I'm definitely going to be there on the weekend to do my volunteering role. You can't guarantee that you're going to have time to be there for your kids, to go along to your kids' school production and see them performing in the school production because you don't know if you're going to be given extra work on, say, a Wednesday night or a Thursday night. You can't guarantee those things, and that means people can't live a full life. And I hear it often from the members opposite, that the way out of poverty, the way to having a full and productive and fulfilling and good life is through work. Well, not if work is like this. Not if work is low paid and insecure and it dominates the rest of your life. Not if you can't live the rest of your life because you're at the beck and call of your employer and because you've got no rights, because every year the National Party takes more and more of your rights at work away from you. Sir, those three reasons are the reasons why every single member of the National Caucus should be considering voting against this bill. And I know some of them have been consistent. They've voted in favour of having Easter trading in the past, of making people work on Easter Sunday. I know some of them have been consistent on that, but a lot of them haven't. And I want to know why those who have opposed this type of legislation before are not going to take a call and actually explain why this legislation is better than what they've had before. And why are they not going to take a call and explain to the House why they think it's appropriate for local government to have to take up the slack, why they're not prepared to actually make the decision themselves, why the National Party, the party of personal responsibility, isn't actually prepared to make this decision themselves. No, they're going to push it off onto the poor old councils so they can deal with the politics of it. They can deal with the pros and the antis, and they can go through the consultation process. Every single territorial authority in New Zealand is now going to have to go through a full consultation process, spending millions in the process. What has the Taxpayers Union got to say about that? I want to know. The Taxpayers Union, who are so opposed to councils paying the living wage, I want to hear what the Taxpayers Union has to say about the government causing local government to have to spend more because they haven't got the guts to do this themselves. Mr. Speaker, there are plenty of reasons to vote against this legislation, and I'm surprised and appalled that the national members have allowed the whip to be applied in this situation. This has always been a conscience vote in the past. Where is your conscience? I say to the members of the National Party, where have your consciences gone? Why are you not prepared to stand up for what you believe in and oppose this legislation?
Let's move on. Oh, she's